Legend of Korra Season 4, Episode 11, Kuvira's Gambit. This is the last episode before the series finale of Legend of Korra, and I think it was a good one. It's a great setup episode for the last two, and I'm really excited that we're going to get a two-part finale, even though, of course, sadly, we won't get to see it on TV. It would be amazing if, for whatever reason, Nick decided to actually give a crap about us and was like, at this random time or whatever, you can watch, the Legend of Korra series finale on Nick in HD. That would be really sweet, but I think we all know we aren't going to get that. They put the show online because it was, lower in ratings, which they kind of did because they put it on a sort of crappy time. And then, we have to watch it on Nick's crappy player, which I've complained about in, like, a bunch of different reviews for Legend of Korra, but I just hate their player so much. Like, in this one, none of the side stuff would go away, so every time I watched it, it was just like the stuff was still on there. The little player wouldn't go away, and the screen was smaller than it was supposed to be after, during the first part when I watched it. So that's like the only thing I'm glad will be over once Korra's done. But it's almost over, and this was, like I said, a great setup episode. It was really cool. We didn't have to wait for the 2 week thing. Initially, I just thought Kuviera's just smart. Like, she said 2 weeks, and then she just moved it a week ahead because you wouldn't expect that. And it probably had more to do with Julie, kind of like Korra said, but I thought it was really cool. Like, it would surprise everyone. No one knew what the heck was going to happen. Kuvira, like, destroyed those guys in that watchtower when they came in, and of course we got to see the giant robot mech suit. She basically, like, built Megatron and just, like, shot him with a laser cannon. And it was really cool. Like, they have this giant machine. I don't know how they're going to take this thing out. I have to assume that a big part is going to come from the Beifong family because the whole thing is made out of metal, because that's kind of what Kuviera was doing, which I thought was really cool when we got to see the inside and it's this giant thing. But it's like three people in there because the whole thing is made out of metal, so she can just metal bend and like flip switches and pull a bunch of levers. She doesn't need like an entire team like you would in pretty much any other show where they make a giant robot. It's like, all right, you do this, and you do that. She had like one person in there with her to really just locate where the team was at the end of this episode, and other than that, everything was metal bended. So I thought that was actually really cool because it kind of gave her this odd sort of power where it's like this giant room and this giant construct that she has complete and utter control over. Like, she doesn't need all of her people to help her control it. She can do it herself, and it kind of just makes her, it kind of gives her a little bit more power because she's controlling this giant thing by herself, and she doesn't need, like, this guy pulls the lever, this guy flips the switch, and these people do this and that. It's really all just her. So I thought that was actually really cool the way they showed that, where it had the classic look of a giant, the inside of a giant command center for a big robot, but only one person needed to control it. So I thought that was really cool. We got to see her give her show of force where she was destroying stuff with the lasers. It looked really cool. We got to see some really great stuff. We had a great moment with Prince Wu. Like, we had it, last time when he kind of mentioned the evacuation as an idea, and it was like, oh, you're kind of stepping up, and then he ruined that when he was talking about he just did it to kind of get with Korra. But we had a really good moment with him in this episode with Mako. I love that, and he really was giving specific instructions. It's like, all right, it's mandatory evacuation. Read this. Although all he did have to do was say, get the heck out of the city. I mean, like, knowing it doesn't really matter where you're going. It's like, we got to get out of here. So it was kind of funny. Like, everyone was all confused and stuff. And then, Wu comes in, and even though it was kind of funny, and you kind of use the analogy of him being afraid to go to the bathroom by himself, it ended up being really powerful. He told people, like, grab your friends, family, grab random people you don't know, and get out of the city because we want you safe. So it was a really good moment for his character. I thought it was nice, and he didn't ruin that. He just was like, he just sat there. He didn't say anything else, and it was just a good moment for his character, and that was really cool. And we got to really see why Kuviera is still attacking Republic City, and this was something I really enjoyed because for any of you who didn't read the comic books, you probably didn't know this already, but they mentioned, they may have mentioned it, I think, a couple episodes ago, actually. But in the comic book stories that they have going now, I think it was in the very first one that takes place like right after The Last Airbender ends, they go through trying to fix things within the city, and one of the big things is that they have a lot of different things that happen with the Fire Nation and how they took over a lot of cities and stuff. And the big thing with Republic City is that technically that land does belong to the Earth Kingdom, and I think that is something they've mentioned. I don't know if that was even this season. That may have been like season 3 or something like that. But the big thing is that this land technically does belong to the Earth Kingdom, and that's why Kuvira is attacking the city, because she really wants the entire kingdom united. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. It kind of gave her a real reason to attack, because I watched another review and the guy, he kind of mentioned, like, she seems evil just to be evil, and that kind of made sense, like she did in a way, because she had no real reason to attack, but they gave her a good reason in this episode. I feel it made sense that it's still a bit above and beyond, because it still shows that she's just like, I kind of have everything I said I wanted, but I'm just gonna get this anyway, because suddenly she really gives a crap about the entire Earth Kingdom being together. But at the same time, she's not exactly the great uniter if she doesn't do it. So it kind of makes sense, and she's going in. Even if she did take it, she'd have to like fix up the whole thing, because she's just destroying the crap. But it was a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. We got to see Julie and Varric come back together. And they made it seem like it was going to be a romantic thing. I think that was really well done. And it's like, they do like this slow thing, and then he's like, don't worry about it, apology accepted. And they just made it silly again. But I like that. And Julie's like, I'm not your assistant anymore. You got to treat me like an equal. So I thought that was really cool. Just everything about the episode I think was really cool. I think one of my favorite parts, probably my favorite part of this whole episode, was them kidnapping Batara Jr., because we got to see Tenzin without his cloak on, and I feel like, I honestly don't think we've seen him without his cloak the entire season. So it was really awesome to actually see him airbending in this suit like everyone else was. So I thought that was actually pretty sweet, and we got to see Korra, Bumi, and Tenzin go in, and they were like in stealth mode and stuff, and it looked really cool. It was like, we didn't get to see Tenzin like that until this episode. So I thought that was really cool, even though it wasn't a really big scene. It was like, it's just sweet to see him without the cloak, because it's like, he's in like Tenzin mode. It's like, the fatherly master monk mode when he has that cloak on, and he didn't, and it was like, I have to do something that I wouldn't typically do, which is like kidnap a person, because we're kind of facing, the front of a war right now, so we got to do things that we wouldn't really expect. So that was really cool. I think they kind of hinted at the fact that Milo is going to have a pretty big part in the series finale. Like, in some point, or in some way, he's going to end up fighting against somebody, because they kind of they had 2 scenes with him where he really had dialogue, and it was like, the big point was him, of course, jumping into battle, and he's still young, and, Korra mentioning the farts and stuff. But I think they kind of showed that, because they're gonna put him in the series finale somewhere. He's gonna have somehow he's gonna have a crazy big role in like in a fight somewhere in the next 2 episodes. So I'm excited for that. They kind of left out, like they always do this. It's like Jinora, Milo, and honestly I can't even think of her name, but their sister, the middle child, she's always left out. Like, I thought she was gonna say something too, because she was left out. Like, Korra rattled off like everybody except the 2 of them, and Milo said something, and I thought she was gonna say something right after too, and then she didn't say anything. Like, I was like, oh well, that's interesting, because they had a whole episode when it was the kids together, and how Jinora's like the oldest, and that's just how it goes, and then Milo, being the youngest and really the loudest, he also gets a lot of attention, and then the middle child is kind of just like meh, and it almost reflects real life in a way, because that's kind of how it goes. Like, the first child's the first child, and then the youngest typically is the craziest, because they don't really know, and the middle child is just kind of normal compared to like the oldest and then the craziest. So that's kind of how it is, and they still play on that in this show. But I thought it was kind of weird that excuse me, that she didn't really get a scene or have any dialogue either during that specific moment where Milo was like, I want to kind of join in the battle. Like, I'm old enough to actually fight. I know what's happening. I can actually help out. So hopefully she gets a scene too. Like, they didn't give her the dialogue in this one, but I'm hoping she has an important role as well. I'm sure everyone will, because it's the series finale. They're going to throw anyone and everyone in this series into this final episode. So I'm very excited for it. We got to see Iroh in this one, and he was actually nervous when they were facing the war and stuff. It was like, man, like, how could you not be, though? She has like a giant mech, so I wasn't like too surprised to see him nervous. But it was kind of interesting. Like he's, being played by Dante Bosco. Of course, I think we all think of Zuko. So it's like, it's just like, man, like this. There's a lot of different things when you see this character. Like he's named after Iroh, of course. He's voiced by Dante Bosco, who was Zuko, and all these different elements to it. And it's just like, it's weird to see this character nervous just because of all the different mental components that came into actually making this character. So it was kind of weird seeing that, but it made perfect sense. And he wants things to go right. Of course, he told Korra, like, find a way to stop this thing. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like, he knows when something's wrong. He knows that if you're in war, sometimes you can't just follow orders blindly. Like, he knew exactly what the mayor or the president was going to do. And, he let Korra go because he easily could have been like, stop her and we're going to give her to Kuvira. But, he's smart enough to know, like, sometimes you got to say, screw the rules, just find a way to end this crap right now. So I really enjoyed that. We got some other cool moments. I think them on the Sky Bison was pretty cool. We actually got to see all of Team Avatar and Mako and Bolin kind of yelling at each other over the giant mech, and Bolin being like, oh, did I forget to mention she made, like a giant robot and stuff. So that was actually pretty cool. I enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty funny. Of course, the ending with Kuvira just going like full on evil, like, yeah, I love you, honey, but I gotta shoot a laser beam and kill all my enemies off instead. That, it kind of leads to the fact that Baatar might go up against her. It's a pretty strong catalyst, honestly. It's like, if all she had to do was take her husband and literally leave the city and, that was it. If that was the option and instead you chose to, like, laser beam everybody, it's going to be a pretty big catalyst for people to, make a decision if they were kind of confused at all. That's one of those defining moments that lets people know, like, either this is something I want to do, or this is a person I want to follow, or this is not a person I want to follow. And if you're kind of, unfortunately, her fiance, that might really throw you off a little bit because she shot a giant laser beam at the building you were in. So odds are she might get betrayed, but at the same time, he might just be so, like, messed up in the head mentally because of what just happened that he won't even bother. Like, it just doesn't matter. Like, I can't be with her. I kind of can't be with my family. At least he'd probably feel that way, even though I'm sure they would easily accept him back. But he'd probably feel that way, and they might kind of have to work around that. But it was a great episode leading up to the series finale. Of course, it sucks to see the show go. I always hated the fact that the seasons are only like 13 episodes long, even though that's just I think altogether this show is going to end up being I think 52 episodes for all 4 seasons. So it's actually really close, if not more than The Last Airbender, which I think was like 20 and then 20 something. It was like 22 or 21 episodes every season for that too. So it's going to end up being really close to the same amount of episodes, but it just always sucks. Like, oh, it's just boom, 13 episodes and we're done. And it, of course, really hurts considering it's the series finale. So once it's over next week, we're going to have to see, just what we get. We're going to get the comic books. I know that. They're still doing the comics with the Last Airbender stuff. If you haven't seen those or you haven't, read those, they're definitely really great. I think they're on the 3rd story right now. I'm not 100% sure. They could be on the 4th by now. But those are actually pretty cool. You get some stuff. It takes, like, the first story is literally right at the end of The Last Airbender. Like, it shows Korra and Aang kissing, like, in that scene. Like, it starts at the very end of the series. So definitely check those out. Some are on YouTube. You can just Google them or YouTube them, I guess. The story with Zuko's mom is in there. I think that's the one everyone was waiting for. So if you didn't know that, it's in comic book form. Definitely check that out. That was actually really amazing. So check those out. Of course, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And, it's only 2 episodes left. So really, instead of, what's going to happen here and there, what do you guys want to see? Because we only got, I guess, an hour left of content. So we kind of have to just see what we get. But what do you guys want to see? Who do you want to see fighting in next week's episode? Because, I would love to see Kaya come back. I don't know where she is. Like, she's just, like, gone. I don't know what happened. Like, we got Bumi and Tenzin, and it's like their sister's just, like, nowhere to be seen. Like, she hasn't been in there since I don't know what episode. I think she was in, like, the 1st or 2nd episode this season, and we haven't seen her since. I realized in this episode we hadn't actually seen Kai for a while either, but that was just story wise, it was kind of interesting because while I was watching, it was like, we saw Opal a lot because of her connection to Bolin, and we had the episode with the spirit vines, and we didn't get any of like the big airbenders really. We got like Janora, which is fairly simple. Like we always get Janora, but we got Janora. We got like the Napoleon Dynamite guy, and that was really it. But we didn't see like Kai or anything. We haven't seen him since like episode 2 or 3 or something like that either. So what do you guys want to see? Do you want to see those characters kind of come back in? I feel like it would be weird if Kaya came in at the last minute because, like I said, we haven't seen her like the whole season, which they could be working on something with that as far as comic book stuff since they didn't put her in the show. They could have a whole story explaining that, and I don't even get into speculations on what they might do with the comics, but it's possible, and I would love to see. I think one thing that all of us kind of wanted was some of the older or like the surviving Avatar members to come in and help out in the fight. And unfortunately, we aren't gonna get that. We aren't gonna see Korra end up teaming up with Toph, which we already saw that kind of happen, and she already mentioned like I'm just too young for this, so I'm gonna go back to the swamp. But we aren't gonna see that. I would love to see Zuko come in because Zuko seems like he could easily do something because we saw him fight in the last season, which was pretty epic, and he still has a dragon, so it's never bad to just have a dragon fly in and shoot fire at people. So I'd love to see that, but like I said, I want to know what you guys want to see in this, sadly, series finale for The Legend of Korra. But comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.